Greetings everyone and welcome to the 100th episode of Spacing Out. I'm Maureen Elsberry.
And I'm Alejandro Rojas. Thank you for joining us.
This is a special milestone episode for us and we'll talk more about that in a bit. But first we're here to get you caught up on the news, so here are some of the space and UFO stories that have made headlines recently. A man seemingly photographed 3 UFOs recently in the Lincolnshire city of Lincoln in England.
Paul Howard, a retired airline captain, reportedly snapped the photo because the sunset was particularly beautiful that day. He took the photo, but did not notice the 3 unusual objects that appear in the photo until he reviewed it later.
He explains to the Lincolnshire Echo, "I hadn't noticed anything strange when I took the photo, but I was quite surprised to see 3 very interesting saucer-like shapes in the sky when I looked at the picture on my computer."
Having spent 33 years as an airline captain, Howard says he never saw anything in the sky that he couldn't explain. "So I was quite chuffed to have captured 3 UFOs on my camera," he states.
The 3 objects that appear in this photo strongly resemble objects that appear in many other photos. That's simple reflections from ceiling lights behind the photographer. Sure enough, it dawned on Howard that he had been inside when he snapped the photo, and he unintentionally caught the reflection of the kitchen lights in the window.
Although most UFOs, like the ones in Howard's photo, can eventually be identified, there are still many mysterious physical aerial objects that cannot be identified. It is important to bring attention to instances like this photo to help people become better educated observers. By better familiarizing observers with the mundane, fewer of these objects will be reported as UFOs, and more attention can be placed on those truly mysterious aerial objects.
An odd meteorite suspected of having Martian origins that landed in a Moroccan desert in 2011 has been found to contain organic carbon compound that is biological in origin.
This is not the first time scientists have claimed to have found biological material on meteorites. In fact, researchers at the Center for Astrobiology at the University of Buckingham say they have several examples of extraterrestrial microorganisms found in meteorites. However, debate ensues around the issue of whether the biological material was present before the meteorite entered the Earth's atmosphere or not.
With all previous samples, critics have argued that the biological materials were the result of the meteorite's impact with Earth. This is the case with the latest discovery. However, an international team of scientists says that the analysis has confirmed the rock is from Mars and that the organic material was deposited into the rock while it was on Mars.
The meteorite has been named Tissant, and they believe it was blasted off the surface of Mars during an explosion caused by an asteroid collision around 700,000 years ago. It is a small gray rock with a black, jagged, glassy surface. It has many small fissures in which water could enter and deposit material.
According to the university, the international team of researchers who made the analysis published their findings in a paper that appeared in the scientific journal Meteoritics and Planetary Sciences. The team included scientists from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, EPFL, along with others from China, Japan, and Germany. They're confident the rock is from Mars and the material within it's biological in origin.
According to CNET, there are several reasons that the scientists have come to their conclusions. One is that there was relatively very little time between when the meteorite landed and when it was collected. This allows little time for contamination.
Another argument they make is that the small fissures in the rock would have opened up from sudden high heat, such as the entry into Earth's atmosphere. However, they argue the conditions for this to happen does not exist in the Moroccan desert.
Finally, they note some of the carbon grains inside Tissant had hardened into diamond. There are no known conditions under which this could have occurred on the surface of the Moroccan desert, and certainly not in the time it took between the meteorite's fall and discovery.
Although they feel their evidence is strong, the scientists expect heavy scrutiny on their findings, as other findings of this nature have received, and they are open to other possibilities. Philippe Gillet, director of EPFL's Earth and Planetary Scientists Laboratory and co-author of the study, told Universe Today, "Insisting on certainty is unwise, particularly on such a sensitive topic."
Yangting Lin, the study's senior author and professor at the Institute of Geology and Geophysics of the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Beijing, also voiced caution. He told CNET, "We cannot and do not want to entirely exclude the possibility that organic carbon within Tissant may be of abiotic, non-biological origin. Either way, Gillet welcomes further analysis. He states, I'm completely open to the possibility that other studies might contradict our findings. However, our conclusions are such that they will rekindle the debate as to the possible existence of biological activity on Mars, at least in the past.
Tom DeLonge returned to Coast on November 30th to discuss UFOs, the possibility of a secret space program, and the upcoming reboot of his Strange Times property. He also teased an upcoming UFO project that will be separate from Strange Times.
DeLonge and his band Angels and Airwaves launched the Strange Times website in 2011 that featured UFO and other news not typically reported by mainstream media. The site went offline late in 2012, but DeLonge has always said he would reboot the site when the time is right.
On November 5th, DeLonge posted a video to his Instagram account that was shot during a recent trip to an area around Nevada's top-secret Area 51 facility. The video's caption stated, "For those who think I'm only working on Poet, you better get ready for Strange Times." Now, Poet refers to another property DeLonge is launching. The Angels and Airwaves album, The Dreamwalker, that was just released this week, is part of this property, and it complements an animated short film titled Poet Anderson the Dreamwalker.
During the interview, Coast to Coast AM host George Knapp asked DeLonge about this recent Area 51 trip. DeLonge explains that he spent days traveling around Nevada and the western Mojave Desert. One night, after falling asleep in his tent, he awoke an hour or two later to the sound of 30 or 40 people talking outside the tent.
He continues, "Now you have to understand we are in the middle of nowhere. We haven't seen a car in 3 or 4 hours. We're about 100 miles from any gas station. We're about 10 miles or so off the highway. The only thing you can see is the secret bases of the China Lake through these big spotting scopes that I have. But I couldn't make out what they were saying. I couldn't understand any of the language whatsoever. It was the oddest thing, and it was going on for about 10 to 15 minutes, but I couldn't move. It was the weirdest thing. But I wasn't scared. I didn't think something weird and paranormal was happening. I just remember the whole thing was so odd. I closed my eyes, opened them back up, the fire is out, and there's about 2 hours of missing time, and I'm like, oh my God, what the hell just happened?"
He woke his two friends in the morning to see if they too heard the voices. One did not, but the other admitted that he heard all these people surrounding our tent talking, and he couldn't get out of bed.
The friend who also experienced the strangeness in the desert is one of the individuals working with DeLonge on something to do with this topic. DeLonge teases that they are specifically working on a couple of really, really large things that have to do with this topic. One that's fun and adventurous, and one that's very, very serious. These large things will reportedly belong to a new property specifically centered on UFOs and separate from Strange Times.
DeLonge provides more details, explaining, "We'll be doing something very, very serious and ambitious that has to do with UFOs, and I'm really excited about that one because I think what we need to do is present in a mainstream way that topic that not only educates but also gives it the respect and gravity that it deserves. It hasn't been done in a long time, and I'm excited to try and bring something that people will find exciting and learn a little bit from as well."
And for those of you who think this project will be short-lived passing interest of a rock star, Tom DeLonge is a veteran UFO researcher who has studied the phenomenon for more than 20 years. And speaking to this point, he assures, "When I say I'm coming out with a property about UFOs, you've got to understand I'm thinking very big, and I'm hoping that I can do some kind of justice to the topic. And it's hard. It's hard to jump into it because you're dealing with a topic that's part philosophy, cosmology, it's part religion, it's part physics, it's part political science. It's got a lot of different branches to the tree, and it's lasted many decades. It's a hard topic to tackle. It's almost the smallest part of it, spaceships with beings."
No real details about this unnamed UFO property were revealed during the interview, except for mentions of a feature film and a historical fiction novel in the works. As for Strange Times, DeLonge says the reboot of that property will include a novel, a movie, and comic books.
Well, the darndest thing just happened, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, appears my co-host, Jason McClellan.
Whoa.
Ta-da!
He flew in from Boise to be here for our 100th episode.
Just like that.
I know. That's quick. How long did it take you?
Just like that.
Just like that.
They
Okay.
just saw. They know how long.
Yeah.
They'll rewind it and time it out. A couple seconds. I'm here. So good to be back.
Well, I'm excited that you actually get to share your opinion on some of these news stories that we've brought up.
Yes, we haven't got to do this for a while. But this Tom DeLonge story, I'm sure we talked about Tom DeLonge so many times on this show. And Alejandro and I just discussed it at length on Open Minds UFO Radio. And people might be sick of it, but I do really think that this is a story that deserves some attention because of, as you and I talked about, I think Tom DeLonge is approaching the topic in the right way. Now, some people who are serious researchers get kind of frustrated by this approach because they don't understand why you would approach it these different ways with entertainment here and going after different audiences. And I think you have to do that because once you get the general public interested in this topic in a way that is digestible for them. You know, some of these topics are really hard to get your head around. You can't go to somebody and tell them that aliens are taking people and all this stuff. It's a lot to take in and believe. You know, they have to take baby steps. Baby steps are key here. So if you can get them on one level with entertainment and slowly acclimate them, they start looking into it themselves. And they say, wow, there's something to this. I'm going to do my own research. And that's what he's really trying to get people to do.
And look, there's a lot of people out there. You have both people who, you know, are more left side of the brain and right side. And it's the aspect of getting those who, you know, aren't as much as reading the straight facts, but seeing it visually in a way that's interesting and bright and colorful and, you know, presented in that fashion that makes them say, okay, I can sit and look into this, instead of just being like, I don't want to read textbooks, basically.
Yeah, well, it's especially exciting for us because Strange Time used to feature a lot of our stories, so that's really cool.
That's right.
But, you know, I've always been impressed on how intelligent DeLonge speaks on this topic and how well-versed he is. So he's genuinely interested. He has a huge audience. So yeah, it's very exciting.
And I know we have some of our viewers who have read thousands of UFO books, but DeLonge says that he's read in the hundreds, I think is what he said. But I do encourage people, if you haven't listened to an interview Tom DeLonge has done, especially the ones on Coast to Coast, they are really telling of how deep he is into this field, how serious he takes it, and he discussed so many different topics with George on that last interview on Coast, and you know, I think he's approaching it the right way. I'm excited to see what comes out because we still have really no idea what he's been working on. He's been doing these projects for 2 years now.
Wow. He's just teasing us.
That's right.
So I can't wait either. I think it's going to be some pretty fascinating stuff. For
Nothing wrong with a tease. And let's talk about again, mounting evidence about life on Mars.
Oh yeah, this is really exciting. I think that, you know, we've talked about this, like, you know, the Center of Astrobiology. I think they have a lot of really good evidence. And of course, Richard Hoover, who we had at the UFO Congress, he talked about how some of that evidence was destroyed. He debates whether it was intentional or not. It might have been just kind of an oversight or a dumb decision. But the point is that they've been talking about this evidence on Mars for quite some time and debating it. And a lot of people think it's a foregone conclusion that there's nothing to it. But that's certainly not the case. Astrobiologists are debating this all the time. And now when we have this international effort with this new meteorite, you have more international scientists jumping on board this idea that, yes, there is evidence. It's looking like there was life on Mars in the past, and we have proof of this.
Well, and not only that, but now they have pretty much determined that the crater that Curiosity is in was actually a lake, and they're finding mounting evidence that most of the surface of Mars was covered with water and was warm. So a very hospitable place for life to exist.
And again, why do we care that life may have existed on Mars?
Jason's going to go into his lava tubes.
Well, okay.
I'm not saying where is it now.
I think the proof is really important because it shows our nearest neighbor, the planet right next door, had life. So if there's life on the closest planet to us, then there must be an abundance of life out there. And so what does that mean? This life on Earth and the intelligent life probably isn't as unique as we may have thought. And I think that's the importance.
Yeah, I agree. I think it may seem like, again, baby steps. Talking about getting people used to the idea of extraterrestrial life existing. I mean, that's where we are right now. That we still haven't gotten over that hurdle. The accepted reality is that there is no other extraterrestrial. There is no extraterrestrial life.
Well, it's kind of funny too. People talk about how extraterrestrial and civilizations are just moving us along in baby steps, and so is the government that's in the know, moving us along, getting us acclimated. And whether or not that's true, this sort of discovery is probably, you know, just enough for us to swallow right now, where it won't have a major effect on you know, civilization or how we view the world or religions or governments, but it'll be enough where everybody will really start thinking.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, it also sheds light on the idea of the possibility of panspermia too, that you know, Mars, let's say it was a thriving civilization and the planet was pretty much destroyed, meteorites came to Earth, and boom.
Yep.
Yeah.
It certainly is exciting.
Yeah,
I think it's exciting, and people don't, I don't know, a lot of people give us grief for how excited we get about astrobiology, but again, I get excited on the grand scale of the public's perception and how this is going to lead into increased acceptance of the idea of extraterrestrial life. You know, again, starting baby steps, we can't have everybody jump on board right away. They got to go get there on their own, and the evidence is leading that way. So it's really exciting.
Yeah,
right.
very.
So nobody comment, why are we looking into this? It's already here. We know it's here, because that's exactly the point Jason is proving is.
That's right.
That's
because
not
Maureen might know that,
the general
they're here,
public,
but the general public, it's still the
No,
opinion that you know, it doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
Right.
So baby steps, and we're making those baby steps really
It's
fast. I
extremely
think.
important.
Yeah, when it comes to the galactic neighborhood, we are but little babies.
Yeah.
Little baby civilization.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said it that way. But well, as Maureen mentioned at the top of the show, this is the 100th episode of Spacing Out. Maureen and I developed this show in mid-2012. Now here we are more than 2.5 years
crazy.
later. The show's had its ups and downs and has seen its share of changes over the years. But we tried very hard to maintain the original focus of the show, and that is to report on news stories related to UFOs and extraterrestrial life that are being covered by the mainstream media. And I think we've done a decent job at that. You know, as we talk about all the time, there are always stories about UFOs and extraterrestrials in mainstream media around the world. They're not always great stories, but they're there, and there are some pretty fantastic stories as well. But we've covered a lot in 100 episodes. So,
crazy.
Maureen, I've got to put you on the spot and ask you if you have a favorite show memory, guest, anything from any of the episodes that stands out as perhaps your favorite moment of Spacing Out.
I guess this would maybe sound a little redundant because we just talked about this, but I mean, definitely my favorite episode was going to Tom DeLonge's studio and getting to interview him, because he is so articulate and down to earth, and I was impressed by his level of knowledge, and it was a fun interview. So that would be probably my favorite. But I would say that anytime that we get to go out and talk with people outside of the studio, those are always my favorite episodes, because I think it shows that this is going on all over the place, and B, that there are so many people interested in the subject and on a normal level.
Yeah. Well, let's jump to you. You've been on a handful of episodes now, but you've also been involved with Spacing Out for quite a while. We had you on doing special reports and things, so you've been with us since the beginning. So what is your favorite memory of Spacing Out?
Well, it's funny because we didn't coordinate this, but I totally agree with Maureen. I think when I think of Spacing Out, I think, you know, how exciting it was that you all got that interview with Tom DeLonge. So that's one of my favorite things. And especially now that he's doing more and more in this field. And the man on the street stuff I really love too. One of my favorites, another one that has to do with music, was when you guys went to that local...
it was Warped Tour.
Yeah, Warped Tour. And you talked to that guy, one of the band members who had spoken to Sammy Hagar backstage about his alien stuff. And the guy was like, "Are you serious about that?" And Sammy Hagar was like, "Heck yeah, I'm totally serious about it." And that really had an effect on this guy. That's another one that really sticks with me. The man on the street stuff is always a lot of fun.
I think the man on the street stuff's great too. And it was actually, it wasn't backstage. He was on VH1's rock band camp or something show.
Oh, that's
when
right.
Sammy Hagar was one of the main people. Gabe, Kubanda was the name of the guy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are two of my favorites. Of course, the interviews are always fun, but when I think about the show and some of the stuff that I like the best, those are two of my favorites.
You picked two episodes you're not in at all.
I know.
That's okay. They're still spacing out memories.
Yeah.
What about you, Jace? Well, I know yours is going to be the same as mine, I'm sure, but...
Well, now I have to be different.
But now you've got to be different, so throw in something else.
When I go in the number 3 spot, I've got to come up with something new. Now, I agree with you both. The Tom DeLonge thing was great, and just being able to sit down with him and discuss the topic for, although it was a brief period, it was an extended period talking about the topic that he is very passionate about. And you could tell that he doesn't get to talk about it that often. Since then, he's done many more UFO-specific interviews. And you know, that's where his heart is. He's passionate about the topic, so he really enjoys getting the opportunity to talk about it. So it was great getting to share that with him. I agree. The event episodes where we go out are my favorite too. I mean, that was really the key idea we had in forming Spacing Out, was to do things like that when the opportunity arose. And the very first episode was the opening of the Atomic Testing Museum, National Atomic Testing Museum's Area 51 exhibit in Las Vegas. That was really cool that we got to be a part of that. And then subsequent to that, we were able to go for the military men and UFO panel discussion that they had. And we got to talk to a lot of people there, former military personnel about UFOs. We talked to George Knapp, Ben Hansen, a lot of our friends out there. So that was a good show too. But really the opportunity, any opportunity we have to get out and talk to people, and talking to researchers is great, but you know, as our viewers know, there are a lot of interviews with the researchers we talk to. I mean, it's great, we do try to talk about different topics, but they've talked about many of these topics a dozen times before and beyond that. So those are great. We enjoy talking to those people, they're our friends, but I do like getting outside opinions, hearing stories that people have, because people, we all know, I mean, we live this our entire lives. It's our full career, and anybody who's an enthusiast in this topic as well knows that when you start talking to friends, family, the stories just come out.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I just love that, because once you feel, people feel you out, they want to see if you're serious. And once they find out you are and you're not going to make fun of them, these very fascinating UFO stories come out. And I love hearing those stories.
Yeah, I like those as well. It's cool to see that people are taking it a lot more seriously than you'd think. A lot of people think, oh, no, nobody, you know, really takes it seriously outside of this core of ufology fanatics. But that's not the case at all, and clearly over the last 6 years, definitely, that found that to be a daily occurrence, where I hear news stories every day.
And as much as we like to think, and I mean, I still believe that it is getting better and the stigma is getting less, it still is strongly there. There's a strong stigma around the UFO topic. So you're right. It shocks me, and it shouldn't, but it still really shocks me when people do feel me out, to make sure I'm not going to make fun of them.
Right.
Because it does happen. You can tell they don't have anybody who will take them seriously, or anybody they're even willing to open up to.
I think people who are even into the subject, it's easier just to kind of be silly and glib about it than to be serious, or to open yourself up and let on that you take it serious. So even people who are into it kind of still act real silly about it, just to kind of cover it up.
For an example, listen to Open Minds UFO Radio.
Yeah, those guys are total goofballs.
I was going to say that, well, and you know, personally, for this one, we don't take it really serious.
Too.
But I mean, we had a lot of strong reactions to our reptilian interview.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, the reptilian
interview. That is one of my favorites. Yeah.
It's very unique.
So that was obviously when we interviewed our former coworker Antonio Huneeus. Confronted him. We confronted him because he was accused of being a reptilian alien. Since then, it's more comments on that episode are more about how evil and reptilian Jason and I are.
Because you covered up.
Because we're reptilians debunking reptilians now, apparently. And see, that's I mean, that's one of the sides where we're more
look at the camera more so people can pause and look at the slits in my eyes, because you want to make sure.
I'm the only one who hasn't been accused of being a reptilian.
Well, you need to stare in the camera more.
But I was quoted in some of these stories about how scary it was to be working with possible reptilians.
That's true. That's true. And that's not trying to, you know, if people very strongly believe that reptilian aliens are here on Earth, we're not trying to, you know, technically make fun of them by making light of the subject.
But we're making fun of people calling Antonio a reptilian,
yeah, we're making
because
fun of people
Antonio's very human. He's Chilean, not reptilian.
Yeah. So
and
that's
if he actually is a reptilian, and I'm not worried about them at all.
I can only speak.
I don't see how they're accomplishing.
They're nice guys.
World
I can
domination.
only see speak for myself that my parents are very much human in origin.
As far as they want you to know.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. But yeah, to your point, we love Antonio, so we would love reptilians as well if he's a reptilian.
That's right.
We'll still love him.
Careful. Yeah. Well, I can guarantee I know which your least favorite episodes are.
I don't know what my least favorite is.
Come on. The month I was gone filming Uncovering Aliens, and you had to have guest hosts. I was gone.
I thought it was pretty awesome.
You thought it was sweet.
Yeah.
Those were the best. You just didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, now I'm sad. Because now I'm not here. Well, with this being our 100th episode, we would like to take this opportunity to thank our fearless leader, John, who trusted the vision Maureen and I created. We also want to acknowledge Caleb Hanks, who created the show's music. And finally, we want to acknowledge and thank our editor, Michael Cline, for all his hard work putting together each episode. And then there's you. We certainly want to thank all of you for watching each week, leaving your feedback, and supporting the show by sharing it around your social media channels. We sincerely appreciate your support, and we look forward to producing many more episodes for you. And with that being said, that is all for our 100th episode of Spacing Out. Visit our website at openminds.tv for all the latest UFO news, and follow us on Twitter at openmindstv.
Also, don't forget to register for the 2015 International UFO Congress, which is the largest annual UFO conference in the world. It takes place February 18th through the 22nd in Fountain Hills, Arizona. You can find all that information at ufocongress.com.
Let us know if you enjoyed today's episode by liking the episode on YouTube and leaving us your comments in the section below. You can also download our podcast, Open Minds UFO Radio, on iTunes or at openminds.tv/radio. Thanks again for joining us today. I'm Alejandro Rojas.
I'm Jason McClellan.
And I guess that makes me Maureen Elsberry. We will see you in the future. Reusable launch vehicle that has suborbital flight capacity. 10 suborbital space flights. That has suborbital flight capabilities. Hold on, let me take a drink of water. Orbital. 10 suborbital.
Yes, orbital.
Suborbital.
It's been a busy weekend here, and we've
We talked to some of the...
and a lot of UFO
UFO over the town of Ednesford in Staffordshire. I practiced it. Staffordshire.
I had just seen a UFO over Cannock, Ednesford.
It's been another great year at the...
Well, that is all from here. Police confirmed that the strange cracks Washington, D.C.'s Capitol Beltway by what appeared to be a flying saucer transported on the flatbed. Whoa! Meltdown. From West Virginia to Patuxent. Wait, how do you say that? Patuxent. Aircraft created by Northrop Grumman.
It's been another great MUFON symposium here in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. For Alejandro Rojas,
I think I should redo that.
Sets the tone. It's been another great year. For Alejandro Rojas, thanks again for joining us today. I'm Alejandro Rojas.
Are you kidding me?
I know it.